Hi everyone, my name is Eduardo. You guys can call me Edu, and today I'm bringing you one of the craziest sets I've ever played in my lifetime. This was honestly insane, especially the game 3, so stay tuned for that. I'll leave a timestamp both in the description and on the timeline bar. There you'll be able to jump to. So this is the top 16 of Joe UX9's tournament, the X9 League Championship. And this is my first game of a Sunday, the Sunday I play this in. So my opponent had actually already played one game. I had to bye to the next round, and looking into their team, my plan was basically just setting up with Tapu Fini and Mudsdale for an end game, and Zapdos is basically there just to scare them, and for me to be able to position into that slot. Because they didn't have an electric resist, but they do have ways of trading really well against my Dynamax Zapdos. Namely, if they have with Metagross, they had a Life Orb Metagross, and they could just Dynamax in Trick Room, use a Max Rockfall, and with all a helping hand, they just KO me through Max. And I have a big disadvantage. Although Zapdos looks very good against them, I had to be extremely careful, because if they get Trick Room up and Metagross on the field, I completely waste my Dynamax. So I decided to just play fairly defensive right from the get-go. I mean, as much of a bait as Zapdos is, I still want to save it, because it's one of my best ways of dealing some consistent damage to Metagross, because as you know, the Metagross is way more physical defense than special defense. So after Dynamax especially, my Zapdos will be able to pressure it a lot. So I end up deciding going for the Thunderbolt on Incineroar, because that basically allows my Mudsdale to eventually get a KO with highest power. Usually that's just about the range I need to put it in, and it might just come up sooner than you might expect. They get Trick Room up and Snarl. My Porygon goes back to neutral special attack, and although I'm not pressuring a lot right now, I still they're not brushing me either, so I'm just building up the positioning for a sweep. They end up just going for a Snarl, obviously not doing too much damage, but reducing my Porygon's special attack even further. Very passive turns so far. They're basically trying to position themselves to get a sweep, and so am I. So we're just basically feeling the terrain and seeing how things go. Now, I am pressuring a lot with this highest power, and you might see that I'm highest powering the Cresselia. That's because this is an open team sheet tournament, so I knew their sets, and I knew that the Cresselia had ally switch, and I felt like there was no reason not to ally switch here. The only offensive attacking move Cresselia has is Ice Beam, and that would just proc my weakness policy on Mudsdale, which they do know I have. And the helping hand does nothing, because I'm expecting a parting shot. They could reverse Trick Room, but I mean they're setting up for that for the whole Metagross sweep, so it doesn't make much sense. So I figured helping Ally Switch would have been their ideal play there, especially because the only Pokemon that can really switch into that is Zapdos, and I would be completely fine with the Zapdos coming in Trick Room against the Mudsdale and a Porygon 2, which are my main ways of handling Zapdos anyway. And I end up getting the read wrong. Now from here the game gets a bit confusing, quite honestly. I didn't quite get this play. They went for Ice Beam. They not only did they not ally switch, they decided to attack into my Mudsdale, and they knew I had ally switch. So I don't know. Perhaps they didn't notice. Perhaps they thought it would have done more. Not really sure what was going on there. But I basically just get my Porygon back to a solid amount of HP. My Mudsdale's at +1 attack now, because obviously parting shot with the weakness policy ends up with a +1. And as I've said before, like my main goal is to position Tapu Fini and Mudsdale. Here it might seem weird, I can just go for a Max Quake into the Metagross, right? But I really don't want to play Ally Switch mind games. And most importantly, this is like a Life Orb Metagross with helping hand support. My +1 Max Quake would not KO a Dynamax Metagross. So what I'm thinking is, might as well boost my defense and set up for a Fini late game, because they're only the only two Pokemon that can properly trade good damage with Fini are Zapdos and Metagross. And so far we have not seen Zapdos. And since it's not on the field, I can Calm Mind and tank Thunderbolts better, especially because they don't have a boosting item on Zapdos. Or rather, they do, but not on the electric move. They had a Sharp Beak on the Zapdos. So, you know, if I give my Tapu Fini a defense boost, and especially in this position, I'll be able to get a few free Calm Minds. And I also get a lot of damage on Corselia, right? And that's always good. I also don't have to worry about while I switch Mind Games, because if anything, it's better if they ally switch, because that means no Helping Hand. Obviously, overall, I end up doing a lot less damage, because, you know, Metagross tanks still spike much better. But, you know, my goal here is to neutralize their Dynamax with my own. I'm not really trying to be too proactive, because I know my Tapu Fini can do all the damage later on. So I get some really good damage on Corselia, all things considered. Also, like, remember that we got a special attack boost from download. I don't know if you know how download works, but basically, like, it looks at the average of the opponent's defenses, and if their average defense is higher than their average special defense, you get a special attack boost, because you get the boost of the lowest stat, because you're trying to capitalize on on the side of the spectrum that the opponent is vulnerable to. That's how download works. So since I got a special attack boost, that indicates that Corselia and Incineroar together end up having a higher defensive average than a special defensive average, which means that you know, it's very likely, especially considering that Corselia has more special defense than physical defense, it was very likely that it was a very physically defensive Corselia. So, you know, this damage, I'll take it. And yeah, I'll just keep boosting my defenses, because that's how I'm going to neutralize their overwhelming power. Because, you know, this is Life Orb, Dynamax, Helping Hand boosted. See, I'm +2 defense, and I'm still taking so much damage. So really, that's why I keep Steel Spiking. It allows me to stay around for longer, and I got a Calm Mind up. Now with Leftovers, I'll be able to, you know, get a little bit of recovery. Not too much, but enough to stick around. And there's one more turn of Dynamax on both sides. The thing is that Trick Room just ended, right? So now they have the speed advantage on my Muzdale, but my Fini has a speed advantage on them. The problem, of course, being that I have to be careful with you know, my Fini does not really do too much damage to them. It's only +1, and Tapu Fini is not the strongest of Pokemon, so I wouldn't really be pressuring KOs. And Tapu Fini, as I said, is a really crucial Pokemon for the rest of the game. So what I'm actually going to go for is I'm considering going for a Muddy Water, because if they target the Mudsdale, I kind of lose my turn if I protect. But I end up expecting them to target my Fini, because the Tapu Fini is overall, I feel like, a much bigger threat, especially now that Trick Room is over. And I end up going for a Protect. I'm going to preserve it. And I ended up calling it perfectly as the Steel Spike goes off right into the Tapu Fini. Still has a good chunk through Protect, but this means that I get an attack off on Mudsdale. Now, they are +3 defense on both of those, but I am +1 attack, so I'm still going to do a decent chunk. I end up calling it right that they'd Helping Hand and not Ally Switch. Get the Max Quake off and put it in a good range for my Tapu Fini, honestly. At +1, it usually does about, like, you can EV train your Metagross to be 3'd KO'd by +1 Muddy Water. So it should do about, like, 45-ish%. I don't know their EVs. I don't know if they EV'd for that, but I know that it doesn't take a lot of investment, so I'm pretty sure that this Muddy Water should do about 40-ish. Now, here, I think I made a mistake. I protected my Mudsdale because it was very possible that I could get double KO'd, right? I'm not sure how much Iron Head's gonna do. I am +2 defense, but it's still Life for Metagross. If I miss Muddy Water, it could be in a tough spot. I'm trying to be very careful, and I don't want to get double KO'd. I want to preserve at least one of my Pokemon. I already protected Tapu Fini, so I end up protecting the Mudsdale this turn. And as you'll see, it might have been better to get a free switch instead on that slot. So I end up going for Ice Beam into my Protect. Iron Head goes off into Tapu Fini. I actually end up living here, and they drop to the Life Orb Recoil. So overall, pretty decent position for me. Or so you'd think, right? Here's the problem, though. The reason why I think it was a misplay is because now in comes, as you'll see, Urshifu. And the Urshifu target is gonna be really tough for me to handle because Tapu Fini is my main hard counter to Urshifu, and it's so heavily damaged that it's just in range for it. And at this point, I'm kind of hoping that I just live the Ice Beam with Mudsdale. In hindsight, maybe I should have switched it out into Porygon. Because, you know, preserving Pokemon is important in this position because Urshifu is the main source of damage. And they can only target one Pokemon. So if I can just start double targeting it while having like 2 healthy Pokemon on the field, especially if I have a Zapdos that is faster, and Porygon 2 that can live any hit from from the Urshifu, they cannot prevent a double target, that's what I'm trying to say, right? Because if they target the Porygon, I survive and I get the hit off. If they target the Zapdos, my Zapdos moved first, so my Porygon is just gonna get the hit off. And if I have one last Pokemon available, then you know, I'm forcing them to target it, right? And that gives the other Pokemon some freedom to attack. So in hindsight, maybe I should have done that. But my position is still fine, quite honestly. If I double Urshifu, again, as I said, they can only KO Zapdos, and if they KO Zapdos, my Porygon will be able to 1v2 the Incineroar and the Cresselia. So I'm not too worried about that. An Ally Switch could be annoying, really annoying. I'm also worried about a Detect plus a Nice Beam into the Zapdos, because then they could KO me with like a Helping Hand Sucker Punch, or they wouldn't even have to Helping Hand, they could just Ally Switch and Wicked Blow, for example. But they end up going for Helping Hand, Close Combat into the Porygon, which I'm actually EV'd for. That's exactly what my Porygon does. So I tank that. It actually takes a lot of investment, so I'm not surprised my opponent thought he would have KO'd. So I end up getting a KO without taking any KOs of my own. So, you know, I see a chance now. And we actually, I believe, yeah, we've seen that my Porygon is faster than the Cresselia, because on turn 2, in Trick Room, the Cresselia Ice Beamed before I Thunderbolted. Which means by the outside of Trick Room, my Porygon is going to be moving first, which forces them to fake out the Porygon here, because if I get a Recover off, I'll just be able to 1v2 the Incineroar and the Cresselia, because they just don't do a lot of damage. They're not a very strong Pokemon, and I can just recover on them, get rid of the Cresselia, and eventually get rid of the Incineroar, so I'd be able to win. So they're forced to fake out the Porygon here 100%, which allows me to just get a KO with Thunderbolt on the Cresselia. And it's come down to a really, really close game here, as you know, now it's the heavily chipped Incineroar versus the Zapdos. Now, at this point, I really thought that 2 Thunderbolts would have KO'd. I honestly thought they would have Flare Blitzed. That was kind of my mistake. Again, I feel like because he was the first game of the day, I was still kind of, you know, kind of not really warmed up. So I'm trying to say. So I go for Thunderbolt. It ends up being the wrong play. I should have Hurricane there. I didn't want to risk missing Hurricane, so I thought Thunderbolt would have been enough. But if Hurricane didn't pick up the KO there, then 2 Hurricanes should have for sure. And that was my misplay there for sure. As you know, now it's kind of late, because the thing is, now I can KO it with either Hurricane or Thunderbolt because I'm -1, so I'd have to crit. In hindsight, maybe I should have Thunderbolted, because Thunderbolt does not miss, and if I need a crit to KO anyway, in theory, a crit Thunderbolt is more likely to happen, because Hurricane still has to hit to even be able to pull off a crit. But again, like, Hurricane has the Confusion chance, and I thought that maybe Hurricane can pick up the KO. Or maybe a high roll, but nope, not even close, and now I'm in Flare Blitz range, so they're gonna Flare Blitz. Even if they die to recoil, the way the tiebreakers work, they end up winning anyway, because my Zapdos gets KO'd first, and only then you see the recoil, only then the Incineroar would lose, so I'd lose my 4 Pokemon before they lose theirs, so I would have lost anyway at that point. And yeah, I felt like it was a very odd game. I was kind of upset with myself, but because I felt like that was my game to win, and I kind of messed it up in a few key aspects. And I was kind of upset as well because I didn't understand a few of the plays, especially like the Ice Beaming to Mudsdale on turn 3. But I knew I had a matchup advantage from my perspective, and I was going to capitalize on that going to game 2. So, I don't want to lock too fast, because if you lock fast, you kind of indicate that you're just going with the same plan. So I'm waiting a little bit. Also thinking if there's a better plan, since the first one didn't work as well. But I was confident on it. I was confident that that was my best plan. Again, the idea was to set up for Incineroar and Mudsdale. The only Pokemon that hit Mudsdale for super effective damage are quite weak. They're Cresselia and Tapu Fini. They don't really have anything that straight up breaks Mudsdale. And for Tapu Fini, it's a very similar thought process. They don't have anything that straight up one KOs the Fini either. So Tapu Fini also walls 3 other Pokemon, as we saw last time. The 4 they brought were Urshifu, Incineroar, Cresselia, and Metagross, and 3 of those 4 are completely walled by Tapu Fini. Urshifu, both of its hits are resisted by Tapu Fini. Cresselia only has Ice Beam to attack with, which is also resisted. And Incineroar only has Snarl and Flare Blitz. So they only have Metagross to hit Tapu Fini with, and that's not even a... It doesn't even have a super effective move. It's just relying on pure power to break the Tapu Fini. So, Mudsdale and Tapu Fini look really good together. That's what I'm going to play for. I'm gonna, again, as I said, they don't have an electric resist, which makes the Zapdos very threatening, and they always have to be scared of it, and that's why I'm leading it. It's sort of a bait. And there's also another very key aspect, which I'll talk about very soon. You'll see it'll come up, and it'll be very, very relevant. So yeah, basically just go exactly the same plan. They won, so they figured there's nothing they want to change. And I think I lost because of a few misplays, and if I play better with this, I should have the advantage. Again, I have to be careful. Like, Flare with Ice Beam does way too much to my Zapdos. I don't want to get snarled. I don't hit any of the Pokemon on the field for a lot of damage, so there's not much of a reason for me to stay in with the Zapdos. Because there's always, like, the risk reward is not worth it, right? Because there's always the threat of Flare Blitz Ice Beam or Snarl Ice Beam, and I take a lot of damage for no reason. And so I kind of want to get some pressure on the field. I probably should have gone Tapu Fini. The reason I didn't go Tapu Fini is because if they parting shot into the Metagross, they parting shot and bring in the Metagross, what I'm trying to say. I'm actually in a really tough spot because Tapu Fini and Porygon don't really pressure it. They end up going for a Nice Beam on Porygon too, probably just for chip, but they end up getting a freeze, which was pretty huge. It's kind of upset, not gonna lie. It is a game, and it's still very early on. Despite the bad luck there, I still am in a fine position overall. Like, it's still too early, So I end up going Tapu Fini because I really don't want to get frozen again. And also, like, because I want to get some pressure on the field, because, like, just going to try and thaw out Porygon 2, I don't think is the right approach, especially because Porygon 2 is not a very crucial Pokemon for the matchup. As I said, the Mudsdale and the Tapu Fini are the most crucial Pokemon here. So as you can see, I considered going for Protect on Mudsdale because I thought they'd parting shot, but I don't even want them to parting shot on the other slot and bring in a Pokemon for free, especially if it's Metagross and they don't Trick Room with Cresselia. That was my biggest fear. And I thought, that there's nothing that really wants to switch in, especially if they brought the same 4. So I'll just high horsepower anyway. If they bring in the Metagross, I punish it really well. They make an insane play here. They end up going for an ally switch this time, and I did not call it correctly again. And they parting shot to Mudsdale, so not the best start at all. I got frozen turn 1, and then turn 2 I got completely red. My Mudsdale's at -1 attack. This is not looking good at all. But again, I still think I have a shot, right? As long as my Tapu Fini and my Mudsdale are healthy, I'm in this, all right? I am in this. So again, I have to protect the Tapu Fini. That's my win condition here. And I mean, as I said, Zapdos is a bait, and I'll show you here. I'll be able to show you another aspect that makes Zapdos really important in the matchup. But yeah, it's just a bait. I don't mind taking damage on it, because again, it's just I'm here to just pressure a little bit. The point is to position my Mudsdale and my Tapu Fini. So they end up going for a Dynamax, which makes a lot of sense. It outspeeds the Mudsdale. They get a defense boost before Mudsdale attacks. I have -1 attack too. The Tapu Fini is not pressuring anything. So perfect position to start getting some damage off. You know, for helping hand, I protect Tapu Fini as you saw. There it is. And then you go for a max Steel Spike right into my Zapdos. And as you'll see, this does so much damage. It's so absurd. I barely hang on. But this is why it's so important. As you saw, like basically, they have to waste 2 turns targeting my Zapdos. When the Zapdos is not a crucial Pokemon for the matchup. So it kind of helps burning turns of Dynamax. And the same kind of applies here for the Porygon. Because especially since it's frozen, I'm able to just, you know, burn more turns. They're not getting crucial damage off, is what I'm trying to say, right? Because the Tapu Fini and Mudsdale are the win cons. Those are the ones I'm going to win with. I don't really mind the these other 2 getting damage, all right? Obviously, I'd rather keep them healthy, but, you know, compared to getting damage on Fini and Metagross, I prefer these 2 take here. So I go for another helping hand. I go for a Heat Wave. I missed the Cresselia, which is no big deal, really. The main one I want to hit is Metagross, so I can put it in range for other moves. I do a lot of damage. I actually hang on from Life Orb, which is pretty huge, as they go for a Steel Spike into the Porygon. And as you saw before, I'm very physically defensive, so I'm able to barely hang on there. And that's really, really important because, again, like, they're not getting crucial damage off on max. If they get KO'd there with Porygon, I have to bring in one of my key Pokemon that are left to take damage from the Metagross, even if I protect, because he goes through protect. And I'll be forced to protect too, which means that I'll be vulnerable the next turn unless I go for a double protect, which obviously is not ideal for me. That being said, this actually looks pretty good, because now if I get another Heat Wave off on the Metagross, I actually put it in range of potentially Muddy Water or regular high horsepower. So honestly, it's not that bad. Like, despite the freeze and the ally switch call and the parting shot and the Metagross being in the right position and the damage, the whole damage, the insane amount of damage I took, I'm still in a completely fine position. I don't mind that too much. I could get double KO'd here, but being in a 2-4 position is really not that bad. So they make a really cool play here, but I don't think they really... I don't think they did it well enough. So here's what I'm trying to say. By max guarding a Metagross, they make sure it stays healthy, and I get KO'd on my Zapdos because the Heat Wave goes onto the Cresselia. I stay frozen, which is quite unfortunate. And they get Trick Room up. Now, I didn't think Trick Room was a play, because like Trick Room actually benefits me more because I have the Mudsdale. Although in hindsight, like if they don't Trick Room, I can like bring in my Fini and max it. My fear with maxing Fini is that if it's Zapdos or their own Fini in the back, that's actually pretty bad for me. Because they get free Calm Minds while I'm Dynamaxed, and I'm not doing enough damage if it's Tapu Fini. And if it's Zapdos, I mean, I get to pressure it a bit, but I still take a lot of damage, and it's not like the best use of max, right? Because, like, especially considering Mudsdale as a comparison for a Dynamax, right? I get defense boosts out of Dynamax, not just damage. And that's so important, because, like, not dealing enough damage isn't that bad as long as I get the defense boost. Whereas with Tapu Fini, if I don't get the right damage at the right time, if I get ally switched on, things could actually be pretty bad. So here I actually decide not to Dynamax the Mudsdale because I don't want to max Quake into an ally switch. I really don't. So I decide to just regular high horsepower. I'm also thinking that I potentially want to max a Tapu Fini. Because if things go bad, I can always like win with max Tapu Fini as long as they brought the same 4 Pokemon as before. So they just Ice Beam the Porygon for the KO and Iron Head for the Mudsdale for a lot of damage. And now I bring in my Tapu Fini. So I'm thinking, all right. So do I max Tapu Fini? If the last is Urshifu, I just win with a max Tapu Fini, of course. But there's also something else we have to keep in mind. What if it is Urshifu? Don't I just win even if I don't max? I do, but if it's the last are their own Tapu Fini or Zapdos, I have to max Mudsdale because I need to keep it alive. I don't want to high horsepower their Metagross for them to ally switch, and then I just lose my Mudsdale, and then it's Tapu Fini against everything else. So yeah, as you can see, I'm considering maxing Tapu Fini, but then I realized there's like, if it's Urshifu, I win anyway. So might as well just max the Mudsdale instead and cover for the other options. So what I do here is I cover the ally switch by I go for a max Steel Spike because not only does it give me a defense. Basically, it's like if they don't ally switch, I get the damage on Metagross. I might KO it. It is +2 defense, but I might KO it. And if I don't, at worst, I put it in Life Orb range and or Life Orb recoil range, and I get a defense boost, so they don't do much back to me, right? And by Moonblasting the Cresselia, if they do ally switch, I'm definitely carrying the Metagross after, right? I don't risk missing anything. So I go for Steel Spike. They end up ally switching, so I don't get the Steel Spike off on Metagross. But again, I got defense boost, which means that their Metagross is not doing as much damage, or it's not as bad that they ally switch. And this is like one of the main ways. Like, it's a perfect showcase of how you can bypass ally switch in a way. I mean, it still wasn't ideal for me, but I didn't lose too much. Like, you know, so I get the KO there, and maybe like in hindsight they should have targeted Feeny. I think they predicted Protect or something. Especially considering what they had in the back. But yeah, so here, all right. So basically here, I'm thinking if it's Urshifu, it's over. If it's not, I need to get these reads right. I need to get the KOs because I need to force Zapdos or Feeny in while the Trick Room is up. And I also need to get Spadaf boosts, right? Because they're both specially attacking. So I'm like, maybe I should Rockfall the Incineroar. It's guaranteed damage even if they ally switch. And I'm like, I don't think they're gonna ally switch, so I'm gonna go for it now. Rockfall is also good because if it's Urshifu in the back, I get to break the Sash with the Sandstorm, right? So I'm thinking, I don't think they're gonna ally switch. I've been calling allies. I've been higher powering Cresselia before, and I don't know. I feel like it's unlikely they ally switch here. They could. I don't know. I felt like it was fine even if they did ally switch, because if they ally switch, they're not like damaging me too much, right? They're not ice beaming me, so I felt like it was fine. So they go for a very interesting play. It's actually really cool. They fake out an ally switch, which guarantees they don't take damage, and they burn a turn of max. And at this point, I'm really scared. I need to get the Rock Fall off. I need to get it eventually. So I do it now because I need to break a Sash on Urshifu, and I feel like, you know, if it's not Urshifu in the back, I'm probably gonna lose anyway. I need to Calm Mind because if it's Feeny, I still have a chance. If I do Calm Mind, as well as Zapdos, honestly. If I get Spadaf boost, I'm not in a terrible spot, especially because there's no Life Orb. So I just go for Rockfall, hoping it actually picks up a KO. Although I'm thinking it's probably a roll. So Rockfall goes down. It actually doesn't pick up the KO on Incineroar, which honestly is fine. It would have been. I mean, it would have been much better if I had gotten the KO, obviously. Especially if it's Zapdos or Tapu Fini in the back, but it's really not that bad. So they get their Snarl off. Doesn't do too much to Mudsdale. Gets the Tapu Fini down to -1, but I'll Calm Mind up eventually, as you'll see. They go for Ice Beam. Mudsdale is actually able to tank that on 11 HP, which is, I mean, technically kind of important because that means that in the end game they won't get to if it's Urshifu, they don't get to like play around with ally switch because they have to target Mudsdale. I'll explain when the board comes up. So I got a Calm Mind off, so I nullify the Snarl. I get a Spadaf boost, which could be really important, and no Sandstorm chip, all that, and Trick Room is gonna be over now, as you'll be able to see. Now I want to get rid of the Incineroar because if it keeps snarling me, like I don't want to get snarled, right? Because if it's Feeny or Zapdos in the back, I need to be able to do my regular damage. So I'm just gonna go for Muddy Waters. Moonblast not gonna KO it. I'm pretty sure. I'm neutral. Incineroar is really bulky. Moonblast does not KO from there. So I'm just gonna Muddy Water and Protect because they're kind of forced to strike Mudsdale. I'm +2 attack now, and you know, if they get rid of the Mudsdale, again, they can just focus on the Feeny. As long as I keep the Mudsdale alive, they cannot do that. So, yeah, I'll just go for a Protect. Go for Muddy Water. Luckily, I do connect both of them, and as you'll see, I'll get a critical hit on the Cresselia, which might be important in the long run. And the reason is because if they bring Urshifu in, right? Even if they play around with Ally Switch a lot, they have to first The first turn, oh, they actually Ice Beam into Tapu Fini and miss because of the accuracy drop, which, I mean, doesn't really matter. I was going to do no damage and they can't freeze me because Misty Terrain is up. Which I found very interesting that he didn't target Mudsdale. Yeah, they were probably desperate because, as you'll be able to see, the last Pokemon, excuse the spoiler, is Urshifu. So basically, they're done at this point. And the thing is, as I was saying, let's see if they keep poly switching around, right? They go for Wicked Blow on Mudsdale. They have to go into Mudsdale, right? Because otherwise, they do no damage to Tapu Fini. I just have to Heavy Slam one, Moonblast the other, and I just start getting. I just pressure KO, so they have to go into Mudsdale. I do enough damage with Moonblast to Cresselia so that they can't keep poly switching forever, because eventually I can just KO the Cresselia, even if they get it right every time. So the game was essentially over. And now comes the craziest game I've probably ever played in my life. This is game 3, alright? Our world tournament runs are on the line. Just whoever loses this is out. This is a stop cut, this is elimination. And this is game 3. I liked my plan. I knew they had to change something. Fini or Zapdos have to be in the back, because otherwise they lose too much they lose too hard to Fini. I like my plan. I'm gonna go with it. I'm gonna wait a little bit to lock, because I don't want to reveal that I'm just gonna bring the same thing. I see that they locked, so I lock as well. I'm still thinking about a few scenarios that I could change, but yeah, I'll just lock there and let the fun begin. This is actually insane. You'll see. I don't want to overplay it too much. You'll see. You'll see very soon. So, going into this game, I mean, I'm still always scared of their turn 1. I'm really afraid of a parting shot. And I figured that one of the best ways I can handle the parting shot, because the problem with the parting shot is they get the drop on my Mudsdale, the Trick Room. Me going for a max is not very good because I don't do enough damage. Because I got parting shot, and then they get the perfect position, right? And I have an important Pokemon on the field that I don't want to have taking damage. So what I decide to do is, if I have both sackable Pokemon on the field, if the Pokemon I can sacrifice are on the field, then it's fine. Like, feel free to get the KOs. And I knew they weren't gonna double. I knew they weren't gonna flame its Ice Beam on a Phoenix switch in. I knew they weren't gonna Ice Beam on a potential Mudsdale switch in because they proc my policy. So I'm just gonna stay with Zapdos, get free damage. Now the Incineroar is most likely in Rockfall range, so if the same position comes up later on, I'll be able to get the KO there. And I even get a decent amount of damage on Cresselia and potentially fish for a freeze, which is pretty cool. And yeah, that's nice. I go for another Ice Beam because, I mean, it's free damage, and if I get a freeze, it's just so good for me. I'm still kind of, salty about the previous game, although I did win. The freeze was really annoying. So I'm like, the luck might balance out, but, that's not a very good mentality. It's just like, in this position, I don't have anything better to do, and the chip on Cresselia can be extremely important. Because, like, the sooner Cresselia is gone, the less I have to worry about Ally Switch and Helping Hand. So, always good to get some chip there. So they end up going for a party shot into the Tapu Fini. And they get to bring the Metagross in. And I'm pretty sure they're gonna Trick Room. So in this position, as I've said before, like, having Tapu Fini and Porygon 2 on the field against the Metagross is not ideal. Especially when you consider that Tapu Fini is so crucial. So my approach is going to be to, try to burn their max so that I can win with Mudsdale Tapu Fini. So what I do here is just go for Recover, go into Zapdos. I'm pretty sure I just lived Helping Hand Steel Spike. We've seen that calc before. I survive it and I can just recover back. We've also seen that my Porygon is faster than Cresselia, and that Cresselia is faster than Metagross. So in Trick Room, the move order is gonna be Metagross, followed by Cresselia, followed by Porygon. So if they do target my Porygon, I'll be able to recover after they attacked. And that's exactly what happens. And this ends up being a pretty good turn for me. because I just end up getting some recovery whereas they took some life orb damage. So far so good. Burned some Trick Room as well, so perfect. Now I know they have Rock Slide, so I'm pretty sure this is going to help again Rock Slide. I could have gotten Mudsdale, but I'm honestly like I'm thinking that they changed, right? They didn't bring Urshifu and Sinnoh in the back. There's no way. They lost way too hard to Tapu Fini last time. So and then this time I'm thinking it's gotta be either Zapdos or Fini. And now they also didn't max the Metagross, which means they probably want to save their Dynamax for something else. So, you know, Tapu Fini isn't as crucial. Mudsdale is probably even more crucial because it's an important Pokemon against a really important Pokemon against Zapdos, and a somewhat decent Pokemon versus Tapu Fini if you consider that I do a lot of damage to it, and they just block my policy if they try to attack me. So I just go for a Thunderbolt, get some solid chip down, which might be really important in the future. Maybe I could have recovered, could have kept my my Porygon healthier. But I decide to just Thunderbolt. So I'm going to recover, hope that even if they max, I can survive it, although it's very unlikely. And I mean, although like Tapu Fini is not as important, if they have Urshifu in the back, it's still extremely crucial. So I'm going to keep it safe. Porygon, again, is mostly only useful for pivoting, for opposing Zapdos if they brought it, but I mean, I still have the tools to handle Zapdos. It's just like a backup plan, basically. And if they decide to max and KO my Porygon, then better for me, because you know, they get to waste a turn on a Pokemon that isn't that crucial. Also, Porygon can be a really solid win condition, because if I save it for last, I can just spam. It can like 1v2 a lot of combinations, right? For example, Cresselia and Incineroar, they're so passive that I can just 1v2 them. I spam and recover. Same could go with like Metagross Cresselia, potentially. That's why it's still important for the matchup, but you know, that's still a very niche scenario. So they end up getting the right call there. So although this seemed safe, it actually puts me in a very tricky position. Because, I mean, now I have to bring Mudsdale, right? But they're +1 defense. I'm not going to do that much damage. I'm not going to be KOing Metagross from here. And it is the last turn to Trick Room. So I can't even go for a proper Mudsdale sweep at this point. I could like protect and try to go for a KO for like a Zapdos Dynamax, but I'm scared because like they can just protect themselves and set up Trick Room, and then my position is kind of awkward. And I also would have to like max guard, and that's always not ideal. I'd also probably lose Tapu Fini if they called that right. So you know, it's not the best position, and no matter what I do, I'm gonna end up having to go down to 2 Pokemon very soon. Now I'm thinking of potentially a Steel Spike and bringing in Zapdos, because if they Steel Spike into the Tapu Fini slot, I'll be able to survive because I get a defense boost on the Zapdos. But I'm thinking, you know, might as well just get damage on the Metagross. If there's a turn they're not gonna Light Switch, it's this one, because they need to Helping Hand to make up for a potential defense boost, right? And if I bring in Zapdos and they Ally Switch, then they don't KO me anyway. So if there's a turn that they're not gonna Ally Switch, it's this one, in my opinion. So I decide, you know what? I'm going to use this opportunity to do a lot of damage. I know they are +1 defense, but as we saw like before, we saw that Metagross was at like +3 defense, and I was at +1 attack. And I did about 40% still, or 35-ish in max. So in a neutral to +1 position, I should do about 40 to 45, I'm thinking. So that should be just enough for, especially with Life Orb Chip, for my Tapu Fini to pick it up with a Muddy Water. And that's what I'm going for, right? Because Trick Room's going to be over. I Max Quick the Metagross. That sounds just about in range of Muddy Water. Again, although I'm losing Pokemon, I'm keeping the 2 most important ones alive. They go for Steel Spike. Zapdos is gone. There's no chance. No shot. And that's it. That's going to be it for Zapdos. Alright, so I'm down to 2 Pokemon. They still have all 4, but as we saw, like, they have 2 Pokemon that are very passive in Incineroar and Cresselia, so they're not very troublesome. The main source of damage in Metagross is already heavily chipped down and in range for a Tapu Fini attack. Another question is, do I risk the Muddy Water? Or do I just protect and Steel Spike? I'm thinking that if I take too much damage on Tapu Fini, I probably just lose. And I'm thinking I have to go on the offense here, and I gotta get a KO. As you'll see, I'll be debating on that a little bit. as I'll be going back and forth on the while picking my moves. I know here I'm just gonna steal Spectre Cresselia, no matter what, because either protecting for the defense boost, or I'm Muddy Water. Oh, I actually don't debate too much. I was debating before the turn I had to decide to move, but I was really thinking about it, because I mean I had a lot of time to plan this turn, right? Because there was a turn where I decided to sack the Zapdos, the time that I had to bring in Tapu Fini, the time I had to bring in to click my move. So I go for Muddy Water, I connect, and I get the KO, which is perfect. They don't have much of a play here besides just Ice Beaming the Tapu Fini. If they Ice Beam that Mudsdale, they just get a policy, they just give me a policy boost. If they Helping Hand, it's a worthless turn because I KO them. If I miss the Metagross, they probably win anyway, even without Helping Hand. So, and the only way Metagross attacks is if I miss. So, you know, not much of a reason to Helping Hand. If they Trick Room, my Mudsdale gets the advantage. So, the only move they can go for there is Ice Beam into the Tapu Fini. It's the only thing that gives them at least a little bit of gain, which is that I took a little bit of damage. I recovered it from leftovers, but I would have recovered more HP if I would have been at higher HP if I hadn't taken the Ice Beam, because you know I'd still get that recovery, but from higher HP. So we see the adaptation here. They brought Fini this time, and I'm thinking, you know what? Both Tapu Fini and Mudsdale destroy Cresselia and Incineroar together, right? If I need to get like one play right. I just Calm Mind and Max Quake the right slot. Now I'm thinking they have to Calm Mind or protect the Tapu Fini. I don't think they gain enough from Helping Hand attacking, so they've got Ally Switch here. They have no other play. I haven't used a Max move, a Max Quake into a Cresselia yet, so I'm thinking they might be confident on the fact that I'm gonna Max Quake into the Tapu Fini, and they could get me with an Ally Switch. So I'm like super sure they're gonna Ally Switch, and I go for a Quake into Cresselia. I'm feeling ballsy, and you know, didn't work out. They end up going for a Helping Hand Moonblast. They even dropped my special attack. I Quake into the wrong slot, and things are actually looking kind of awkward. I still have a special defense boost on my Mudsdale, so I'm not being too pressured. The Fini, though, is kind of in range, and I have to be very careful. So here, I'm going to call them to Helping Hand Moonblast, potentially. So, you know, I'm kind of... I got to make the right reads, right? I wasted if I get the Quake off in the right slot, I basically just win. Because if I get rid of Tapu Fini, my Mudsdale or Fini, both of them just win, because they both beat Cresselia plus Incineroar. They don't have any other source of damage. So I kind of get it right in the sense that I called that they wouldn't Ally Switch, but they went for Calm Mind instead, which basically means that I could have gone for a Calm Mind myself, but I was too scared of Helping Hand Moonblast. I go for Higher Power and I actually miss. So that's two devastating turns in a row where I just get nothing out of Mudsdale, basically nothing out of the turn in general. So I'm forced to Calm Mind again if I want to take a Helping Hand Moonblast, and I mean I think that's their only play, right? They're not gonna Ally Switch, they're gonna Helping Hand Moonblast. I mean, there's the only source of damage they have. If I KO the Fini, I'm fine. So this is still not over. So I go for a Calm Mind. I'm getting kind of upset, not gonna lie, because, you know, I just wasted 2 turns, and it was a really unlucky miss. But, you know, I gotta keep my composure. So they go for Moonblast. Right into the Tapu Fini, and I survive. But I go for Higher Power and I miss again. And at this point, I'm so mad. I'm so upset. I can't believe I just wasted 3 turns. I had the game locked. I was especially mad because I felt like, you know, I feel like I get it was one like something that grinds my gears kind of is when people like kind of underestimate Pokemon like Tapu Fini, like big Pokemon of the metagame, when team building, and I'm kind of upset that they underestimated Tapu Fini so much and they're not getting punished because of all this that is going on. But that's just like a side note. The most upsetting part, of course, is that I'm getting so unlucky, right? And I'm basically just messing up everything, and then the Ally Switch, and I'm like, there's no way this is going terribly, and they Calm Mind too. The disrespect, they could have just Moonblasted me, but they Calm Mind, and I'm so done. I just wasted 4 turns. 4 turns for nothing. I did nothing these 4 turns. So I go for a Higher Power into the Cresselia. Waste of 4 turns. I'm going insane. This is I cannot believe this. I just lost. I'm out of the tournament. So my hope now is that if I crit Moonblast, because I'm still +1, right? If I crit the Moonblast, it potentially puts it in a higher power range. If I crit both of them, I don't even have to worry about anything, because I just, I crit both of them. I definitely KOs my Tapu Fini. If I crit higher power, it might be enough to KO with Moonblast, but I'm not sure. So I'm hoping for a crit. I go for a Moonblast, at least a special attack drop. I'm really hoping. I see Moonblast doing nothing, and I'm so upset. I'm kicking everything here in my room. I'm going mad. I can't believe I just lost in such a dumb way. I'm going insane. I could not believe that was happening to me. So I go for highest power, do a lot of damage though, and that was kind of surprising. So if I get this turn right, I mean, this is still winnable. But I don't like, they just have to, like, if they protect Tapu Fini, they get enough recovery leftovers. If they get me right with the ally switch, I just lose. I probably don't even have to, they don't even have to get anything right, because if they helping him Moonblast, they just do too much damage. And Cresselia and Incineroar at that point can beat me. So I'm just like, I'm defeated at this point. But I still try, because, I mean, they can mess up. I'm hoping they go for Muddy Water for some reason. And they miss. That's my only hope. I look at the screen, I see Muddy Water, and there's the lag. The lag means that Muzzle avoids, and I'm back into the game. I'm highest power. I get the KO on the Tapu Fini, and I cannot believe it. Like, things just swung so much in just one turn. I'm shocked. This is already, I'm going insane. I'm screaming. I'm literally screaming in my room. So they intimidate me. Inner focus doesn't work. Now, they've seen inner focus a bunch of times. They brought in Incineroar on Mazil. They saw I have inner focus. They have the open team sheet. They know I have inner focus. So I just go for Rock Slide, right? They're trying their best not to lose this. They go for Fake Out, even though I cannot be flinched. I'm like, okay, there's a chance. They go for Ice Beam. They proc my weakness policy. I'm like, all right. I win, but then they freeze me, and I'm screaming. I'm like, I'm just shouting, please don't do this to me. There's no way this is happening. Please thaw out, and then Muzzle thaws out. I cannot believe it. I go for Rock Slide. I get the KO on the Incineroar, and do a lot of damage to Cresselia, and I'm freaking out. There's just no way. I'm coming back to the game. There's just no way. So now it all comes down to Cresselia versus Muzzle. They can hit me for super effective damage, and they are +2 defense. If they crit or freeze me at any point, I'm just done. So they go for a first Ice Beam. No crit. No freeze. I go for a Heavy Slam. Is it enough to KO? It is not. Alright, so I have to dodge a freeze or a crit again. Just one more time. I'm begging, please. I've had enough bad luck. Please. They go for Ice Beam. They connect. No crit. No freeze. I get the Heavy Slam off. And that is the game. I somehow won that. And I'm just so ecstatic. I cannot believe what just happened. So yeah, that was probably the craziest game of my life. I hope we enjoyed. I managed to actually get second at this tournament. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, that's it for now. Thank you all for watching, and see you next time.